Thai people, Thailand. Democracy is a rule of people, by the people and for the people. Right, liberty and equality are the most important principles of a democratic government. Since Thai people are the free people who want to have the liberty to choose their own ways of life, democratic rule is most suitable to the lifestyles of the Thais. It is the intent of the Constitution of the Kingdom of Thailand that the sovereign power shall belong to the Thai people. This intention is consistent with the Thai traditions and culture and is the central concept of a democratic regime of government with the king as head of state. Following a coup d'etat by Khana Rasadon or the People's Party, Thailand had made a transition from absolute monarchy to parliamentary democracy on the 21st of June 1932. His Majesty King Prachatipo or King Rama VII subsequently abdicated the throne and bestowed the royal power upon all Thais. The first constitution in the form of a temporary charter was proclaimed as the first supreme law of the state. After that, the first meeting of the House of Representatives was held in the upper floor hall of the Ananta Sumakom Throne Hall on the 28th of June 1932. It was attended by 70 members of the House of Representatives who were appointed by Khana Rasadon. The meeting resolved to select Chao Phraya Thammasak Montri as the first President of the National Assembly and Phraya Manopakon Nitikthada as the Prime Minister. The first permanent constitution of the Kingdom of Siam was promulgated on the 10th of December 1932, which later became the Constitution Day in Thailand. Thailand is a democratic country under the bicameral parliamentary system with the Constitution as the supreme law of the state. The sovereign power of Thailand is exercised by three institutions: the legislative power, the executive power, and the judicial power. Under the 1932 Constitution of the Kingdom of Siam, Thailand initially adopted the unicameral parliament system, and the first elected House of Representatives was established in 1933. The bicameral parliament was later introduced by the 1946 temporary constitution, which stipulated an election of Prithsapa or the upper house. This house is currently known as Wuttisapa or the Senate. Nevertheless, Thailand has adopted both a unicameral or bicameral parliament system, depending on the provisions of the constitution that was effective at the time. At present, Thailand adopts a bicameral system consisting of two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Their duties and powers as stipulated by the Constitution are as follows: to propose and consider bills, to supervise the administration of state affairs, to approve important matters of the state, proposal and consideration of bills. The legislative power, which is the principal duties and powers of the National Assembly, includes drafting of organic acts and acts, consideration of the annual expenditure budget bill, approval of royal acts, amendment of the Constitution, supervision of the administration of state affairs. The National Assembly's supervision powers are meant to create a balance of power between the legislative and the executive branches. Such powers include 1. Acknowledgement of the Council of Ministers' policy statements. 2. Submission of a motion for a general debate for the purpose of having the Council of Ministers provide the facts or explanations of key problems in the administration of state affairs without passing any resolution. 3. Submission of a motion for a general debate for the purpose of passing a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister or a specific minister. 4. Interpellation of a minister on any matter within the scope of his or her duties. The House of Representatives and the Senate can appoint a committee to consider, study, investigate, or perform any task as assigned by the National Assembly and report the outcomes to the National Assembly for further consideration. Approval of important matters. The Constitution assigns members of the National Assembly the power to consider and approve important matters pertaining to the national interests at a joint sitting of both houses. Some of these matters are: approval of an appointment of a regent, acknowledgement or approval of a royal succession to the throne, approval of a declaration of war, approval of the signing of agreement with other countries. The National Assembly of Thailand is the center of the Thai democracy and is responsible for the legislation, supervision of the administration of state affairs by the executive branch, and the approval of important national matters. It also functions as a direct representative of the people. Ananta Sumakom Throne Hall was Thailand's first parliament building that had been in use from 1932 onward. Increasing numbers of the National Assembly members proportionately to the population growth at later dates rendered the Ananta Sumakom Throne Hall too small to provide suitable venue for the meetings of both houses of the National Assembly. In 1970, His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great had bestowed a plot of land on Utong Nai Road in the Dusit district of Bangkok for the construction of the second Parliament building. Being made entirely of marble, it was referred to as the Marble Parliament. The first parliamentary meeting was held at this building on the 19th of September 1974. And continued to do so for the next 44 years. In 2008, the Council of Ministers passed a resolution to approve a budget for the construction of a new parliament building on a state property covering an area of 123 rai on Tahan Road, Kiat Kai, along the bank of the Chao Phraya River in Dusit district. Sapaya Sapasathan is the name of the new parliament building. The word Sapaya means restful and Sapaya Sapasathan means the Parliament of Peace and Serenity. The building's Thai architectural design was inspired by the Draiphum Buddhist cosmology. The main building of the new Parliament building is topped with the roof in the traditional Thai architectural style to symbolize its Thainess, while the rest of the building has a contemporary architectural design with special emphasis on flexibility, privacy, and comfort of use. The principal areas in Sapaya Sapasathan include the State Chamber Grand Hall. This hall is a symbolic representation of the center of the Mount Sumeru. It is the venue for the annual state opening ceremony of the first meeting of the National Assembly. There are two chambers. The House of Representatives Meeting Chamber. This is the venue for the meetings of members of the House of Representatives and the joint sitting of both houses. Its conceptual design is based on the idea that Suriyan, or the sun, is the source of life and all living things. The Senate Meeting Chamber. The conceptual design of this chamber is based on the concept of Chandra, or the moon, as a companion source of energy of Suriyan, or the sun, which can be compared to the National Assembly's dual missions of creating peace and happiness for the people and the nation. Other areas of interest in this building are the National Assembly Museum, the Democracy Courtyard, and the People's Courtyard to accommodate the people who want to come to express their rights and to participate in the democratic process. The Thai National Assembly is the place where all Thais can come to learn about the legislative process. It is the focal point of the Thai people's penchant and faith in democracy.